Talking with the experts.
Jacqui Naunton discusses with us how DIYing your business graphics can grow your business in episode 358.
And so for your businesses, for those of you listening, if you're not sure about your branding, stick with it for now until you spend the time rebranding it properly. Stick with it and actually just really lean into it consistently. Don't think, oh, that template's really cute, I'll just use that different color today, or that's really cute, like collagey look. When you don't use a collage look, don't do a collage look if your style isn't collagey. And so really keeping with that consistency just helps people recognize us. And it also saves you time. Like, I know lots of people spend way too much time in Canva. They get like so caught up with like, oh, I need to try this and I need to do this. And it's next minute, it's been 2 hours and I've just made one tiny design. When you use your graphics consistently in terms of your colors and your fonts and your style over and over, you literally you don't have any design decisions to make in terms of those things. All you have to do is replace the text, put a different image in, and you're done. Like, we don't have to overthink these things, because as business owners, we have so many things we need to be focusing on in our businesses that if you're spending too much time on your graphics, like, while I believe graphics are important, they're not the only thing you need to focus on.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. Today my guest is Jacqui Naunton, and we're going to be talking about how do-it-yourself graphics can grow your business. And with many business owners, now doing their own graphics on websites like Canva, Jacqui's passion is sharing how that it can be done rather well, and it doesn't waste your time, and it doesn't it sets them up to be like a pro. And Jacqui is a graphic designer turned online design coach for small business owners. She helps passionate business owners take charge of their business, giving them the skills and confidence they need to create their own incredible visual brand and graphics through her programs, DIY Design My Business and the Co and Creation Club. Her program has helped her clients sell out workshops, gain followers, and book out their businesses. Jacqui is also the host of podcast Design Hacks for DIYers, where she shares how to create good design in business so that you can attract clients and build success that you dream of. Jacqui is a mum. She loves cheesecake and she's a Canva enthusiast. Who doesn't love Canva? Welcome, Jacqui, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I thought you were going to say who doesn't love cheesecake, which is also a valid point. Cheesecake and Canva, wonderful things in the world.
Yeah, well, who doesn't love cheesecake? I love cheesecake. I think it's the best thing out, almost. Next to Canva.
Pretty much.
I mean, the woman who invented this, she's a genius, honestly.
She is. She's hit something good and made an incredible platform for so many business owners. Like, even my business as a graphic designer, as someone who can use all the fancy programs, I still use Canva 90% of the time for my work.
Yeah, and they keep adding new templates all the time. It's an amazing platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what got you into becoming a design coach for small businesses after being a graphic designer for so long?
Yeah, so I was chuffing along quite nicely doing designs. My clients were mostly online business owners and women in business, and I was like, this is an awesome niche. I'm loving it. What I was seeing at the same time as obviously doing logos and branding and designs for all these wonderful women, I was also scrolling my Instagram and noticing lots of women who were doing it themselves. And I was like, I mean, all the power to you. Like, well done. I totally get like the convenience of being able to do your own graphics is wild. The way that you can just churn something out straight away, the way that you can put your own touch on something, and the way that, like, you're not, like, if I have an idea right now, I could put it out into the world in half an hour. Like, it's done. I don't have to like talk with my designer. Like, when someone works with me, it'll take them 2 weeks to get the design out into the world. And so that immediacy and that the footprint you can put on it of your own fingerprint, I guess. And so I was seeing these business owners doing these things, and I was like, amazing. But I can see that you're not doing it to the justice to your business in terms of, like, as a designer, I believe in the power of design in terms of how it communicates your value, how it communicates what you're all about to your audience. At just a glance, I read a stat the other day that said scientists have found that you process imagery 60,000 times faster than words. And so when someone sees a graphic from our business, they're making these snap judgments about how much you charge, what kind of person you are, what kind of product or service you have. And so being able to represent a business well through design is super, super important as a business strategy and as a just as an all-round good idea. And so when I was seeing business owners doing it themselves, but really, really badly, I was really feeling for them because I was like, I totally get why you want to do it yourself. Like, I love being able to do my own graphics, but I really want to be able to show you that creating designs that are really great for your business, firstly, is actually possible for you. Like, you don't have to hire a designer if you don't want to, or you don't have the funds for that, but that it can be really, really powerful to see success for your business once you actually spend a little bit of time learning these design principles and learning how to use Canva in a quicker way. And then I was like, cool, let's just flip things around. I also at the time was pregnant, and I was wanting to maybe slow down on doing the done for you services and move across to being able to help more people at one time. And so I was like, right, let's flip everything. Let's start teaching. And you know what? It's been one of my favorite things. I've just absolutely loved. Like, I had a call with some of my students last night, and I was just like, this is just a present for me, being able to work with you guys and being able to help you with your designs. It was just such a dream. So it's been like it's a win-win situation for me, that whole switch. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of people. I mean, some people have the design gene, I guess. To put it in I can't think of a word at the moment, and some people don't. Some people can draw, faces, and some people can draw stick figures.
That's me. I'm the stick figure girl.
Yeah, me too. And but you can tell in their graphics, whether they've got context, or they can, have spatial awareness, and colors, and all sorts of other things, and a lot of them don't stay on brand either, which is really annoying. If you've got brand colors, use them in your graphics.
Yeah, and you've probably named some of the top two kind of issues that I see when people are DIYing, and it's not prioritizing, like, learning some basic design principles. Like, yes, definitely to some extent people have an eye for creativity and for design, and I can see that. But when I can also see people that just when they're able to learn the foundations, sometimes something just clicks and like, oh, that's why everything that I was creating actually looks crap. It just wasn't having, like, there wasn't enough space around the edges of my design. The text wasn't large enough, or the cursive text I was picking wasn't really a clear readable font. And like, just learning some key things around contrast and hierarchy and all these like fancy design words, they're like, oh, actually I can do this. Like, it doesn't look like it's like a genius designer has made it, but it looks professional, it looks clean, and it's communicating my value to my audience. And that's all a design needs to do. It's not, like, I always say that design is very different from art. Art is allowed to look beautiful for the sake of looking beautiful. It's about communicating something within the artist's heart or whatever. But design is really just about communicating a message. It's about saying, this is what I want to share. Like, I want to share my masterclass, so I need to make an Instagram post that communicates that exact thing. And so it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of thinking things through and making decisions around that. And I found that people, no matter how creative they feel, they're able to actually learn this stuff, and which is really, really great, because as I said, like, being able to do your own things is just is so empowering for the business owner, and helps them to also think about things on a different level. I know so many times when I was working with people, they would come to me to get their logo done and would make a beautiful brand, but then they would actually come back to me 6 months later because they realized they hadn't actually really considered their branding, in terms of, like, they hadn't stopped to think about, like, I would help them step them through it as much as I could, but because they were kind of putting it into my hands, they hadn't and I don't know their business or them. I can't make all the decisions for them. I do the best that I can. And so they would come back to me like, oh, I actually realized my target audience is a little bit different now, or I've changed my business this way. Whereas when you do it yourself, you have a lot more ownership and a lot more clarity around what you're creating, which I think is really beautiful. And the other thing you mentioned there was just keeping things on brand. And like, that's honestly my number one design tip, is just, if you've got a brand, even if it's not perfect, stick with it. Stick with the purple, stick with the cursive text, even if it's like you could have picked a slightly better purple, or maybe you should have picked brown. That's not the end of the world. You can make anything work to some extent, but if you keep it branded, if you keep using those same colors, those same fonts, that same style over and over again, that's where the magic is. Because when we use consistency in our branding, we're so recognizable. People often ask me, how do I stand out? But a big way to stand out is actually just to be consistent, because people begin to recognize you. My branding is it's got purples and blues and peaches, and it's quite bright. And I know that when someone's scrolling the Instagram feed and they see my purple, if they're interested in what I have to say, they'll stop because they recognize that it's a white deer post. They recognize it's a Jacqui post. And so for your businesses, for those of you listening, if you're not sure about your branding, stick with it for now until you spend the time rebranding it properly. Stick with it and actually just really lean into it consistently. Don't think, oh, that template's really cute, I'll just use that different color today, or that's really cute, like collagey look. When you don't use a collage look, don't do a collage look if your style isn't collagey. And so really keeping with that consistency just helps people recognize us. And it also saves you time. Like, I know lots of people spend way too much time in Canva. They get like so caught up with like, oh, I need to try this and I need to do this. And it's next minute, it's been 2 hours and I've just made one tiny design. When you use your graphics consistently in terms of your colors and your fonts and your style over and over, you literally you don't have any design decisions to make in terms of those things. All you have to do is replace the text, put a different image in, and you're done. Like, we don't have to overthink these things, because as business owners, we have so many things we need to be focusing on in our businesses that if you're spending too much time on your graphics, like, while I believe graphics are important, they're not the only thing you need to focus on. And often people I find are like almost self-sabotaging themselves, because design can be a little bit fun if someone has a tiny bit of a knack for it. So they spend ages working on a design when they could have actually been spending a little bit longer on their copy, a little bit longer on their marketing, a little bit longer on writing something different or creating a different program instead of their graphics. And so finding that perfect balance between spending time doing good design on Canva without spending too much time that's kind of, you're just wasting time now, and kind of procrastinating. I should make that a phrase. Then yeah, it makes a big difference. So just
Jacqui
having
word, yeah.
brand,
Like a
yeah,
Jacqui word, yeah. That's a good. I like that word.
procrastinating. I might have to trademark it.
I when I do my Canva things, I love the templates in there, so I can just change the colors, because
Yeah.
I don't keep the same design for absolutely everything, except for the graphics for the podcast and graphics for testimonials. But everything else is just a template repurposed from Canva. Because I like to change things. I mean, I keep the colors and everything the same, and the fonts the same, and the logo the same, but I love changing the backgrounds in what I'm having to say, but they're still similar, because I'm still using the colors and whatever, but there's no set pattern. And if you looked at some of my original graphics in Instagram, you'd freak. They're really ugly.
I think all of us like that. Even my graphics, like I in some of my presentations, I do like which Instagram feed is better. You'd let me know which one is your favorite, and it's literally just me 3 or 4 years ago, because everyone is improving. Even as a designer, I cringe at my old things, and so as long as we're just constantly getting a little bit better and a little bit more clear in our audience, a little bit clearer in our messaging, then that's all you can ask for. We don't have to be perfect from the start, and
Yeah.
that's probably a good point as well to make in terms of lots of people, when they're either starting their business or they're halfway through their business and they're just afraid to put things out there because they don't think it's perfect, it's better to have something out there than to have something that looks perfect. And so if you're listening to this and you've got like 5 designs in your Canva that you're just too scared to post, just post them, see what happens. It's not the end of the world. Obviously, you want to always try to improve and try to have things that are branded. But at the end of the day, if your content's not getting out there, it's definitely not succeeding. Whereas if you put it out there, it could half succeed, and that's better than not at all.
Yeah, I use my first Instagrams were before Canva, so
Yep.
I use Publisher mainly.
The good old days of Publisher. My first design when I was like 10, or maybe not 10, maybe 13 or so, getting into design, I was using Microsoft Paint. It was
Oh yes, yeah.
I learned some funky tricks on it, but gee whiz, I'm glad I've got some different programs to work with now.
Yeah, I'm wanting to learn how to use Photoshop, and I think it's an amazing tool, but I don't know. I just have this resistance to learn as much as
Depends
I
how
want
much.
to.
Exactly. It depends how much time you have. Like, there's a steep learning curve. Once you get it, it's great. But honestly, Canva is so much quicker. And do you know my favorite thing about Canva compared to things like Photoshop is that everything's right there. Like, if I want a picture of a flower, I just search flower and it's there. If I want an
Yeah,
Instagram icon, I search it and it's just there. Like, everything's, I don't have to go to Google. I don't have to remake it myself. And so that's where the time saving comes in with Canva, to be honest.
yeah, and you can take away the backgrounds and all sorts of other things, and
Yep.
it's an amazing. I just love it. I mean, I can't stay. I should become an affiliate maybe.
Yeah, maybe you should. It's a great thing. I'm an affiliate. It's good fun.
Oh, are you? Oh, good. Oh, okay. I might look into that. Jacqui, what are some of the, basic tips? I know we've gone over, fonts and colors and branding and all that sort of thing, but what other basic concepts should business owners be looking at when they're, doing their designs?
Yeah. So some of the biggest tips I like to recommend, one of my favorite ones to teach is it's a thing I mentioned before. It's called hierarchy. And it's this idea that it's hard to explain on a podcast, but I do it regularly on my own. So I know that it's possible. Hopefully people are getting it. When you look at a graphic, when you see something, when you see anything visual, your eye goes to something first, like something is drawing your attention first. And often it's probably the largest piece of text or the piece of text that's a white text on a black background, like that's standing out the most because of the contrast between the foreground and the background. And so hierarchy is this idea that we're taking our audience on like a visual journey throughout the graphic, and we're kind of directing their eye from the heading down to the subheading, down to the subtext. And so lots of people, when they're putting together a graphic, they just kind of put their text on, and sometimes they'll go so far as to have a heading. But then beyond that, usually there's a few different pieces of text that are the same size. And so when someone sees that graphic, they're just feeling a little bit overwhelmed because it's not clear of where they should look next. And they often just give up. And so as people creating graphics, our role is to communicate. And so we need to make sure that we're being really intentional with the sizing of our text and making that crisp and clear, like not having like a massive long sentence as the heading, but keeping that really like punchy, and even pulling out keywords. Like say, for example, you were to have, you were running a masterclass and the masterclass was entitled Learning How to Jump So That You Can Jump Higher. Then like you wouldn't necessarily have all of that text the exact same size. You could put learning how to in a smaller text, and then you could put jump really, really massive. And then you could put like, so you can jump higher in like medium-sized text. And even within that one heading, we've got some hierarchy so that when someone is scrolling their Instagram, jump might pop out to them. And if they're really interested in learning how to jump, that'll capture their attention. That helps us to stand out. Whereas if you have heaps of text on your design and all of it's a similar size, or it's too much text, it's a large size, then people won't stop and read it because they're just like, oh, that's too much text. I'm not invested in you enough to sit and read this. And so giving our audience a reason to look at our designs is really, really important. And so thinking about that journey. So if we go back to the masterclass example, if I was teaching someone how to jump, I would put that heading and do it how I've just mentioned now. But there's also other information like maybe the date, maybe how to buy a ticket, maybe a bit of a subheading, maybe free masterclass or the price of that. And so each of those pieces of text is also not created equal. Like we need to have all of those in different sizing. Like I don't care about where to buy a ticket if I don't know the topic and I don't know the date. I don't want to come to your event if I can't make the date. And so the date might be the next biggest size, or the subheading that encourages people to want to learn how to jump might be the next biggest size. And buy a ticket here would be one of the smallest sizes, because if someone's actually invested in reading, I'm going to take them through a journey of learn how to jump. This is why, this is a date. And oh, now I'm ready to buy a ticket, rather than buy a ticket now, the largest kind of sized object. And so just being really intentional, like it's not rocket science. All it is really just a matter of stopping and thinking about it when we're designing a graphic. Of every single graphic, even if it's just a quote graphic on your Instagram, what is like, if it's if the quote, for example, was learning how to dream will help broaden your horizons. You might put dream and horizons in really large text, because that will help, or broaden horizons in really large text, because that's going to capture people in. And then you might put the other text in slightly smaller writing. It just helps to draw people in and to take them on a visual journey. And so hierarchy, I think, is a really, really great tip that anyone can do, because all it is a matter of thinking about it and then making text different sizes. And just when you finish your design, my biggest tip is to just lean back from your computer and squint your eyes a little bit, or maybe like flick your head back and forth to the computer and just see what jumps out. Because as someone who's just been designing the graphic, we see it in a whole different light. So we need to it's almost like cleansing our eye palette, like we cleanse our tongue palette. And then so like glancing at a design quickly, or even sometimes my husband works just across the room from me, and sometimes I just hold up my computer. I'm like, quick, what's this say? And I just want him to tell me what the biggest words that jump out to him are, to make sure that hierarchy and that messaging is super, super clear. That way I'll know it'll be clear to my audience.
And please use an image that matches the text.
Yeah, that's another really good one.
There's no good about if you're gonna, say learn how to jump and then have someone like that's driving a car.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. And like we learned earlier in terms of how images speak louder than words, or images speak quicker than words, having graphics that back up your message is so, so important. So, so important. It doesn't have to be super obvious, but it needs to make sure that it's connecting and beginning to tell the story. And that can be in terms of, like, even I was sharing a design on my Instagram this week of 2 different pizza menus. And one pizza menu was like yellow and red and white and bold text. And the other pizza menu was black with like sleek white text and really small and kind of dainty and really beautiful. And both of them were good designs, but one of them communicated cheap pizza, you can get it really quick with a red menu, and the other communicated probably authentic Italian, probably wood-fired. It'll probably cost you $30 a pizza compared to $7 a pizza. And so thinking about how can I use graphics and my style to communicate what my business is about. If you've got a really high price point product or service, make sure your designs look that way. But at the same time, if you've got a really affordable product or service, make sure your designs look that way, because if I'm looking for like a $10 service and your designs look really premium, I'm not going to want to work with you because you're not what I'm after. And so just thinking about how we can use images and styling to really reflect what our value is, reflect what we're about. Like, another example is if you see my Instagram, you can see that it's bright and it's fun. But if you were to see someone else's Instagram, it might look more relaxed and neutrals and like warm kind of colors. And when you work with me, I talk really fast, I'm really fun, and I'm really like bam, 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 motivation, do the things. And other people might be like, let's nurture you and encourage you and do all these things, which I'm also those things, but less so. And so my designs communicate the kind of person that I am, what it's like to work with me. And so thinking all those things through is really, really helpful to, I guess, it takes out us having to explain everything about ourselves, and it just communicates at a glance.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. And your designs should be a reflection of who you are, of what your business offers, and even a price point. People can see by your designs what sort of price point you're offering, because, it's really gold leaf and classy, and, it's got squiggles and things that are really, high end, or you can just be a meat and potatoes like me and and just be plain.
Exactly. Place is a place of everything.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit more about design hacks for DIYers.
So yeah, that's my podcast where each week I'm just sharing like 20-minute episodes just on different principles like this. Like there's an episode on hierarchy, there's an episode on how to pair fonts, there's an episode on lots of different how to choose your branding, like all these different kinds of things just to help people, everyday people, design their graphics every day rather than feeling like it's overwhelming, rather than feeling like it takes them way too long, rather than feeling like the end goal is to hire a designer when maybe they actually can do it themselves, and that might be more supportive to them, especially if they learn. When you learn how to do something well, it actually becomes fun and enjoyable rather than really scary. Like for me, copywriting was probably one of my least favorite things, but I've invested in a couple of courses around copywriting and now it's less scary and I'm okay at it. And so just learning how to do something well can just free you up to actually enjoy the process rather than it being a blocker for you to not share your graphics. Or even for me, for example, when I started my business, my second iteration of my brand was hot pink and white. And that was because I was like, oh, I'm working with females, I want to target females, so I'll use pink. And it was quite cliche. But I hated it. I hated the branding. And whenever someone would ask my Instagram, I would be like, I'd be at a networking event, like, oh, Jacqui, can I follow you? And I'd be like, nah, I don't want to direct you to my Instagram. It's ugly. I don't want you to see it. And then I'd be like, fine, it's white, do. And then they would look it up and I would just be staring at them and like, they're going to hate it. They're going to hate it. They're going to hate it. And I was self-sabotaging my business because I was embarrassed by it. I didn't want to share it. And so I really love being able to empower business owners to be like, I can actually not feel embarrassed by my branding, because when we feel embarrassed by our branding, we're less likely to share it. And I think that's a real shame, because usually we believe in what we do and want to work with more people. We want to help more people. And so being confident of our branding helps us to do that even more.
Yeah, I love mine. It's got a rose in it, and I always want to be remembered as the lady with the rose in her brand, in her logo. And it had a metamorphosis over the years, but yeah, it's still
They
got
all
the
do.
rose. Yes.
That's really beautiful. And yeah, being
Mhm.
proud of it is just so important.
It is. Jacqui, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or about your business or what you can offer them?
I love the old Instagram. So if you are on Instagram, please hit me up. My handle is white deer. So white, the color, deer, the animal, and then GD at the end. I would love to hear from you. Feel free to message me and say the favorite thing that you heard on this podcast episode. I'd love to hear what's been resonating. But yeah, if you head over there, then you can see all of my links. Or you could just head to whitedeer.com.au and I'm also just there.
Wonderful. And if you had some words of wisdom to share, what would you like to share?
I'd say, like I could like everything from this episode in terms of design has been something that I would love to share, but just in a broader sense of, in terms of business, I think learning to enjoy the little parts of business can be really important. So if there's elements of business that you don't enjoy, trying to work out how maybe you can work past those rather than letting them trip you up. For me, it's, as I said, copywriting, a bit of bookkeeping. And so the more that I've learned about those things, the more enjoyable they become, or at least the less I'm putting them off. And, putting off bookkeeping sucks, or putting off your copywriting means that you're not getting out there more, and putting off your design means that you're not sharing your business as much. And so finding ways that you can just equip yourself in those areas can be really helpful and I guess empowering for you to be able to keep on stepping forward in your business rather than getting in your own way sometimes.
Yeah, that's really great advice, because we tend to sometimes get in our own way, and we don't use the best strategies to move forward, even if they're just simple ones.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And
yeah,
obviously, like, you can also outsource, which is another great thing to do. I could outsource my bookkeeping or copywriting or design. So also an option. You don't have to learn how to do everything, but for some things, I think it's really fun to do too.
it is. Yeah, and it's good to know a little bit about everything, I think, so that when it comes time to outsource, then
You
you're
know what
not
you're doing.
what the what your VA is doing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's like when I go to a mechanic, I'm like, I have no idea what you're doing to my car, and they could rip me off or they could do the wrong thing and I wouldn't have a clue. But yeah, when we know those few basics of things, we can direct
Yeah,
people better or make sure we're not getting the wool pulled
absolutely.
over our eyes.
Absolutely, Jacqui. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing with us your tips for hierarchy and branding and colouring and fonts and all sorts of things like that. It's been enlightening, and I've loved it. And hierarchy is something that I hadn't thought of, so I will now.
Enjoy. It's been such a pleasure to be on here. And yeah, hierarchy is one. Sometimes we do it naturally and sometimes we forget. So enjoy implementing that one. But no, thank you
I
so
will
much for
do.
having me.
Bye bye for now.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.